Hello, Anne. How's it? Hello, world. Welcome back. This is Moving the Needle podcast. I definitely don't think you're tuning in to hear me babble on. And I've got an awesome episode that's going to come your way. A 3 times BMX world champion, 5 times mountain bike world champion, a dual Olympic athlete. Now, I've crossed paths with her many a time. But this is why I started the podcast, is to reconnect as well as I get to research and see what makes her tick. She's an all-star businesswoman, entrepreneur, mentor, mentee. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't know how you have the time to rack up all these titles and give back and do all these things, but you said a little bit off air. First off, welcome to the show. And you're saying you're enjoying a little bit of sort of a come down after what was
I
looked like a
am. We were
crazy
just
season.
mentioning the come down from this recent Crankworks crown. Just spent the last 6 months overseas doing the Crankworks World Tour, a bunch of other events, and then on the side as well, I've picked up all of the field reporting this year, so more of leaning into the commentary space, which you know so well. So talk about being challenged. But yeah, definitely now that I've come home, the first few weeks home, I'm like, I actually feel like I was honestly on a huge come down. So had to find my feet again and get back into training the off season, a bit of that creative reset here at home, and yeah, loving it now, prepping for next year.
The, is it quite the challenge? I remember back then you'd get home, you'd obviously be eager to get home and maybe eager to switch off and not have to train and have to go through the anxiety of racing. And then you get home, you're not really in your schedule at home. Maybe you haven't reconnected with all your friends. So you like their
Yeah.
lives have gone on. And that goes even for parents are pretty good at, you just pick up where you left off. Friends, the good ones, of course, but you're not in the click. And I found myself a couple of days in going, well, what was the point of coming home?
Yeah, a
I'm
little
just
bit of
sitting
that.
here.
I mean, I always kick off with my friends pretty quickly. We do sprint class every Wednesday morning, so we go and listen to some early D&B and get into the sprint class, breakfast, and yeah, definitely have a good riding crew. So Canberra is like quite a really good mountain bike hub in Australia, and I literally live an e-bike ride. Like I'm 5 minutes from the local bike park, Stromlo, which hosted the 2008 World Championships, and yeah, I mean, I have my like little community, and it's like a really good creative base to like reset and go again for the next season. But it's wild. Like we're September and contracts start getting done in October. And I like today my admin was putting in my DD order for 5 bikes for next year, emailing Magura, like Cane Creek cranks, what can I change on my bikes for next year? And like how can I just elevate and like this is always the admin point of the year where you're like, you're September, but the Aussie season kicks off in January and everything starts in January. So it's like bike paint through trek. Um, it's like a blessing and a curse. I love the program that I run. The fact that, it's not like downhill. You don't have World Cup teams, Crankworks and BMX and like what I've created within the industry, my bike, and then like 14 brands is like all the contracts and every piece is specced out from ODI to DD to um, the Trek obviously bikes, and then I've got like stands, Maxis. So like yeah, once you break down every part, every individual component, yeah, you end up just doing a bunch of admin at the end of the year, keeping everyone happy. So yeah, I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way.
But it seems like you're obviously doing this all on your own, right? And you've built up this brand, which I mean, I can't wait to pick into. And I know your dad was a big help in that. But you don't have like a agent or someone that's helping with
Not
ordering these
necessarily in the
parts and
bike
stuff.
thing. I think it's kind of important just to like hold the reins on that. And as an athlete, you understand where the industry is at. Like right now, the industry is in a unique position. So when you're actually like hands on it, you can have those like in depth relationships. So I keep everything to do with the bike industry like completely myself. And then my management agency, they do more external. So they manage like Ford cars, Harley Davidsons, my makeup, my supplements. Like they manage all external industry, and then I manage all in industry, which I would recommend to anyone. Like that's probably the best thing to do because once you get an external management involved in the bike industry, they don't know what's going on. They don't understand small businesses that are bottling bike wash themselves, or they don't understand that the recessions, or they don't understand, restructures in companies or what's going on. So I think if you can like keep your hands on the pulse yourself in the bike industry, you'll end up with just better long-term relationships with the ebbs and flows and what goes on for sure.
Yeah, that's critical. I think some athletes do struggle with the admin side and the business side. That's clearly not something you struggle with. So, but I think having someone aware of the bike industry, like an outside agent or agency, they're dealing with way different budgets, way different ways of doing corporate. I mean, I've said to a few people, I mean, if some of the things you see in the mountain bike industry, it wouldn't fly in
No.
the corporate world. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. Sometimes I wish there was a little bit more
Yeah.
organization on the mountain bike side. I think you could professionalize a lot of the communication and those sort of things. But if you brought someone from a big agency in, or these management, I mean, they could probably sort of soil a deal instead of making it better for you. But so what agency are you working with? Because I did look into it, and you did some work with IMG in the past. Is that still who you work with? Is it an Australian division? Yeah. How did you find them? How
Yeah,
did
so
you
the
come
company's
about
called
that?
Two Palms, and they're an agency. They actually have a European arm, which everyone would be familiar in the bike world with How We Roll series, with the whole FMD side. It's filming Tani and the whole Canyon team. So Two Palms Europe actually manage that contract. So yeah, they work with GoPro Europe, and the guys are always around. They were just at the Swatch Nines, and it's pretty awesome to be like over there on the other side of the world, and you're checking in with like one of your bosses there, partying, having a great time, and then you're back in Australia, and then there's the whole the Australian arm. Yeah, how I came about with them was I'd gone through a few different agencies in the past, and then I was paying one on retainer hours just for their work, but they weren't taking any percentage of the deals. And that was awesome for a bit through growth, because I had a lot of projects for them, and I was writing kids' books at the time, and just like, doing a lot of like admin and setting up. Whereas now it was everything shifted, and I just said, hey, I really want a brand that will hustle and really take 20% of things that they're getting. But if I hand it to them, they take 10. So that's like, they don't touch any existing contracts. And that's like what I tell everyone. I'm like, don't let any agency take any existing contracts or any of the work that you've done. Don't let them touch winnings or performances or any of that. Just what they bring to the table, 20%. If you hand them a deal, or if you're not coping with something and you say, oh, I just need you to manage this, then, I feel like 10% is reasonable.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. I mean, I've had some talks with people as well, and I think sometimes if you're naive or you're not comfortable having the chats, you can really, like, the
Oh,
wool
yeah.
can be pulled over your eyes. Like, it's incredible business sense that maybe you've learned the hard way, maybe you haven't, or you had good mentorship. I mean, looking at your Instagram, looking at where you've got, I mean, I read all those titles and listening to some podcasts you've been on, and you were super professional about the notes for this one. I think it's easy for everyone to go, oh, she's got it made. It was so easy. Or, yeah, I mean, she's talented on a bike and what you have you. But maybe if we can take a trip, like, how did it get to this point? Because people tuning in might just go, yeah, but that's easy to talk about when it's going good. Or you've got how many hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers and you're doing world's first. But, that doesn't come without hard work, just persistence, as we said, when we're trying to deal with the tech issues getting into
That's
the
what we said.
call.
I mentioned to you, I was like, oh, luckily I can ride a bike, because tech is actually challenging. It is hard. I mean, everything is hard. And I love a good challenge. I think that's like one of the things I'm realizing now is stepping into the whole media broadcast space. I just signed a deal with the Olympics to go and co-commentate BMX racing, which was one of I did BMX since I was 5 years old. I went to two Olympic Games, and to now be like, all right, I'm going to my third Olympic Games, but for commentary, and you're sitting on the whole different side of the athlete realm. Yeah, you've got to completely put your L plates on again. You've got to go back to being a learner. You've got to literally upskill yourself. I had like an amazing mentor chat the other day, and I'm the first person to be like, all right, who can I speak to? How can I ask for advice? Like, how can I get help? And honestly, like, everyone is always so arms open. I signed the Olympic deal. I spoke to Red Bull the other day. They just want to put me on for more broadcast events, and I'm like, I've done two events. I'm not ready for this. So being honest and just being like, oh, like, shoot for the top. Who can I talk to? So I thought about the action sport industry, and I was like, what's the pinnacle? And I was like, UFC. So I went straight to Megan Olivy and DM'd her and just said, hey, Megan, like, I know you work with Joe Rogan and you're on the broadcast and you've just hit UFC in Sydney. I know you're super busy, but like, hey, I've just stepped into this realm. Like, I really want your advice. And she gave me the time. We had like a 2 hour mentoring chat, and she just like
No
unraveled
way.
so much good advice. She said, you're going to be in Paris. So after Whistler next year at Crankworks, I'll fly to Paris with the Olympic team. And she's like, you're going to be there with no basically producer help. You're going to be running around with skateboarding, with freestyle BMX. You're going to be interviewing everyone. You're going to be doing the co-commentary for BMX racing. She's like, that's a really big 10 days. And she said, the best advice I could give you is to like level up, go on online, and there's like so many skill shares and educational pieces. And she just said, learn how to be a producer, and if you could understand what the broadcast and what the Australian Olympic channel is going to want to show, and how you can like present the angles and deliver the broadcast. She's like, if you can understand that, take a step back, you can deliver your job. And I was like, okay, this is like the best and worst advice that you've just told me, but I'm glad I've got a year, and I'm glad we've like just had this conversation. So yeah, I think we come back to like, it doesn't come easy, but I've just had such a good like mentorship, and I've always asked, and so many people have always said to me growing up, they're like, you just want to get a really good team around you. And finally, like through all the struggles, you have to do that apprenticeship. You have to come into mountain biking, BMX, whatever it is, and take all those product deals. I remember I won my first world championships. It was 4-cross mountain biking in Canberra, and Jared Graves was like on the podium as well. And I knew that he was on 6-figure deals, and I was like not even on a bike sponsor at the time, and I was paying for everything. And you've got to do those hardship years. You've got to lay that foundation and work hard and hustle. And I look back now and I'm really like grateful for all of that. Where it's kind of put me now is like, I actually had a meeting today, and myself and another moto girl in the industry who's created a brand and a business out of like 2 wheels, in a different light to what I've done. We've come together and just gone, hey, like let's start a brand of webinars and master classes, and like let's roadmap this out for like the generation coming through now, and be like, this is how you negotiate a contract in mountain biking. This is a breakdown. This is the hard lessons I learned. This is what you need to like look for. This is how you uphold it. Like kind of just everything, through to mindset, through to like merch, through to like showing the whole roadmap of like how the whole operation works. So we're both ready to open that up sort of come January, and that's the next evolution of projects, things that are on at the moment.
You certainly do love to keep busy. I must say, you've got a couple careers there under that hat, and building these skills. I mean, we could go in any which direction there, but you keep speaking about the mentorship and giving back, which we can get to later. But who taught you that you should be reaching out? Who gave you the courage to message someone that is maybe a lot more successful than you? Or did someone help you first, and then you realized, okay, this is how mentorship works? Or people often are very happy to give their advice. I think mentorship often feels like a one-way street, but it's not. The person giving the advice to someone that implements it and improves, there's a lot of
Oh,
fulfillment that
definitely.
comes from
Like
that.
it's been a mix of learning the hard way. It's been a mix of getting some really good advice and then just leveling up. I think because I was 5 years old, I started BMX racing. I was traveling the world at 9 years old for BMX, going to world championships. I was 13 and had a really good mentor, and he would email me like checklists every day after school. And it would be absolutely wild looking back now. Like I was hungry, and I'm like, no girl is making a living out of BMX. BMX isn't it's not a career, like whatever, but I like want it to be. So he was kind of brutal with me. His name was Tim Chad, and I remember like he would write, add 200 people on LinkedIn today. This is how we're going to write a proper email. This is like, it's proper mentoring. And I was like, all right, I've got my school homework and I've got my like brand homework. And like I just think that foundation was so important. It started the hustle and it started that ownership on like when you're an individual athlete, you are making a career out of it. Like success is on you, failures on you. Like, I mean, you have to. You can't just be a good athlete and everything happens. You've kind of got to be able to manage it all, do it all, and that's the most exciting part.
That's incredible though. If you start this mentorship program and these webinars and stuff, like you're right, there was no roadmap for you. You've kind of just sort of paved your own way. A girl from Australia in BMX. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty niche, and we're still sitting here with. I looked at the website and so many brand deals, and you're obviously aware of how to add value. You're asking for something, but you're giving something back, and you've risked all sorts of things like sort of funding your own video series to then hopefully sell it on. I mean, like, not many athletes realize, like, okay, you've got to get results, which you were. I mean, you got the world championship titles. People that do that are often, they'll just kind of get through their career on that, which you could say that is enough, but you sort of at always in every sort of
Yeah.
corner were hustling.
Definitely. Like
For
it
lack
is,
of a
it's a
better
hustle.
term, it
And
is a hustle,
as I said, it was because it didn't exist. So like I always say like, it's hard to be what you can't see. And I couldn't see the roadmap. I couldn't see, a girl in my position that was making a career out of it. And I was like, oh, I guess I need to. And I never knew like what was going to pay off or how to navigate it or what to do. So I just would dive into being the best athlete I can be. And then just like always trying to hustle and understand like the business side and build relationships and have some like, I mean, I've been on contract with them since 2007. So a lot of these deals that I've had have been 15, 20-year deals. It's amazing when you look at it and you compound it. You're like, wow, like this brand has stood by me through highs, lows, injuries, setbacks. Like they've ridden the wave. I'm now 32 years old and still loving it. And I've been managed to like do BMX and divert and reinvent myself and come into mountain biking and do free ride and Crankworks, Queen of Crankworks titles. Like, yeah, if you create that strong platform, which I sort of say being authentic, consistent, and unique, like if you have those three pillars down for social, for brand, for what you do, like the foundation's there and you can run with it. And I find that any challenging moment of my life, I just come back to that and it seems to navigate me to keep on.
So say it again. It's
And
unique,
like
authentic. What was the
consistent.
other one?
Yeah. So even with like
Yes.
social,
Yeah, there's a level, but that comes from being an athlete, right? Like you consistently are in the gym or training and you don't always see the results the next week, but or consistently putting out content, right? You can use that sort of three-word pillar for anything you do. And I think in business as well. Tough thing in business, I've got some business on the side. You don't see the results as quick as you do with racing and training. And maybe I'm comparing too early, like a business they say is got to get through 3 to 5 years. And if you can get through that, you have a chance. So, and I think athletes at a certain point, if you think about your early careers, how many years it took to become pro, or then you have your first pro race, and then how many years it takes. A lot of people are on a slower trajectory than some superstars. But consistency is almost everything if you just keep at it and learning and sort of
yeah, definitely.
adapting.
I always had this like tool and I'll probably like add it into all these webinars and everything, but I had this like accountability board and like I reckon for 15 years of my career I was like married to that board. Like I don't have it now because I'm at a point that I'm like more flexible and just run off experience and like the whole flow state of everything. But this accountability board was like it was either a mirror or a wall or like something wherever I was lived or based at the time, and it would have like the calendar, it would have my goals, it would have the content, it would have projects. Like I would just like put it all up there and kind of like work backwards to be like, it was like slay the day. It was like 5 things for every single day that I needed to do because I knew that if this didn't happen, that didn't happen, and that didn't happen. And you would like take a step back and you'd go, all right, like if I want to be a world champion, like I actually have to do this Monday to Friday. If I want to have this you know, lifestyle where I'm like living out my why, where I want to have, you know, a career, and I want to have a financial freedom for my family and all these like things that I want long term, I would be like, I'm just gonna like put it on the wall and like work backwards. And I just think it was like such a powerful tool, because it was the accountability board, and I'll be like, oh, I'm not doing this. So, and when you would actually do everything, you'd be like, oh, I just won a world
Did
title. Oh, I'm in another Olympics. Oh my god, this just happened. Or I just signed this contract. Or how did I get on a cereal box? Like, this is insane. You're like, oh, that's why I worked hard.
But I mean, you've mentioned
Hmm.
things like manifest things, but you've put these things out in the universe. But then this accountability board is not, you're not sitting on the couch
Yeah.
going, well, I'm thinking of it. I'm dreaming of it. You're actually going out and doing things. Like, I think people forget the steps in between. There's all these action steps
Yes.
that you have to do. And now with like instant gratification and social media and comparison, I think people just forget that consistency and actually like action steps. But so that like a mentor helped you with putting a board together, or that was Caroline from Australia as a girl just realizing
Bit of
her own
everything
way of
thrown
doing
in the deep end. Mentors, I mean, I love
it.
audiobooks, podcasts, like, yeah, I'm just a sponge to it all. But I really think it's that athlete mindset of being able to like have a goal and a vision and then work backwards. So even for me next year, planning out probably 7 major events and then 5 speaking events, like I'm already kind of going like, you've got to work backwards. So I'm tuning back into BMX podcasts. I'm getting mentors. I'm like going to upskill for the whole broadcast side, because I'm going to be doing V8 supercars and then road cycling and working with Red Bull again, and then obviously Olympics. So like if that's the speaking leg, you just like take a step back and start tuning in now to all the steps. And I've used that same model, I guess, for everything, whether it's been diversifying into slope style or the whole FMB world tour and like learning tricks. I mean, I spent like 15 years not taking my hands off the handlebar. I was a racer. And like when I had to first do that first one-hander, T-bog, no-hander, I was like freaking out. Yeah, just chip away, chip away.
How many hours are there in a Caroline day?
I'm pretty OCD, ADHD. I don't know. I time block my days. Like I feel like it helps me.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do? Yeah, I've been telling myself I need to. Otherwise, you can go in a million different directions and it can bring a bit of anxiety to the day unnecessarily. But so, yeah, you time block your days, but so you're clearly decent at prioritizing the training and riding because that's obviously
Hmm.
primary goal. But then when do you fit all the other stuff in, and how do you not have your brain and how do you stay present, I guess, with what's the task at hand, probably the riding, the
Well,
training, all
the
that
time
stuff?
blocking thing is really good because as it's, like I said, it's good because in a sense you're your own boss. You could, if you want to slack off, you slack off. If you want to have a 6 months off season, you have a 6 month off season. I find that I can't really, because everything always keeps me accountable. Like I just signed a nutrition deal, so I know in 3 months' time I've got to do like a full fitness shoot. So it's like, oh, better get back in the gym. I haven't been in the gym because I've been on the road for 6 months, So it's like, oh, welcome back, abs. So it's like the brand sometimes and all these opportunities and everything, like it does keep you super accountable. But yeah, I find the time blocking thing really helps me, especially because like I'm doing a lot of like concussion rehab at the moment for my eyes and my brain. I found so I had a really bad concussion at Whistler last year in speed and style, under rotator, backflip, whiplash, like stretch it off. My vision changed at that point and my ability to focus at high speed. I knew that there was a shift, and I've spoke to a few other riders within mountain biking, like Robin Gooms, and it's just so common. Everyone is like, oh yeah, I'm not the same after concussions, or like, oh, I have this vision problem too, or I see that little furry dotted spotty friend that you're talking about. And we all go through it, and we're like, I know that I parked it for 12 months and I didn't do anything about it. And I knew come the end of this season, I was like, I need to go do something about it. So yeah, I actually got tested 3.5 weeks ago in Melbourne, and it was awesome. Like it was 2.5 hours of testing with this like neuro chiro brain guy down there that works with all the WSL World Surf League and our footballers in Australia. And he was able to test, like, honestly, everything from your health, your heart rate, your memory, your balance, your inner ear, your vestibular, your eyes. Like, I learned so much. And he was able to pinpoint exactly what had been affected by concussions and then give me a program every day, which I've been doing for like 3.5 weeks. So that's also part of the time blocking and like trying to manage. I knew this off season, it was like kind of important to like prioritize the concussion side as well as, leveling up speed and style tricks, having this off season, getting ready for Craigworks next year and everything else. But that concussion side of it was something that was like definitely frame of mind all year and on a lot of athletes' minds. You want to know what to do about it, and there isn't a roadmap. And I even said to this concussion guy, I said, everyone's in this guessing game. You don't really know how long do you spend off, how can you do this rehab. So yeah, he's given me like a whole 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at lunch, 20 minutes at night. And yeah, it's eye work to like memory stuff, to have this like laser on a hat and I have to like trace a line and spin around and read these numbers. Yeah, your eyes have a lot to do with your brain and concussion. So yeah, I'm seeing improvements already and I'm just like,
I was gonna say, can you see tangible improvements through
oh,
this
definitely,
rehab?
like already. Because like last year I went and got my eyes tested and they were like, oh, your like optic nerve pressure's too high and you could have a brain tumor. And they like threw all these things at me. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm good. Like I've just had a few concussions, like maybe 10 plus, and
Yeah, just
yeah,
a
just a
few that I
couple. I'm
can
like, it's part
remember.
of the job. And one of these eye doctors was like, gave me the talk. How many career titles you won? What have you know? And I was like, no, like we're not having this conversation. Like this is, I love what I do and it's my passion. It's got to be something you can do about it. But there is people out there that are now not just saying, oh, you've had too many concussions, retire. They're going, let's do some rehab. Let's, reset what you've damaged so that you not only have that health as an athlete, but you have that health long term. And that was one of my biggest questions. I said to them, I was like, hey, like CTE and dementia and like all these things, like they're pretty like frame of mind for a lot of athletes now. And it was really good knowledge. He just said to me, he goes, there's not enough research that's gone into it. There's people now getting CTE that aren't even athletes, that haven't even had head hits, like opioids and all these things affect CTE. So he just said, park it, do your job, don't stress about it. And that was just like pretty awesome to hear that from one of the best chiro neuro people in Australia that's working with World Surf League and AFL and all of these big sanctions right now.
Yeah, because otherwise the doubt and maybe guilt builds up if you don't have the answers. But I've obviously had a fair share of concussions as well and sat out some races. And I've been a big proponent of getting one doctor. And I know Crankworks has one, Ewan, and I've had him on the podcast. So we've deep dived concussions as well. So yeah, I've definitely wouldn't call myself an expert, but definitely a proponent of how careful we should all be and find doctors and help. But anyway, I was reading a book and I don't know if they spoke about, but learning new skills, like things like dementia, right? I'm not going to compare it to CTE, but at a certain level, there is a way to delay the onset, even if you are susceptible to it. And learning a new skill helps maybe if there's and I won't get the correct doctor terms, but like if there's a wiring that's not working and you're learning a new skill, there's like different ways to get to an end result. And that was good that people realized, like even in a normal walk of life, like learning a new skill, social, sleep, and eating and exercise,
Yeah,
like it's all
drink
the
water.
basic stuff, and then you
Yeah.
layer it with maybe, yeah. It unfortunately, like health and all these things is like if you do the basics really
Yeah,
well, you can get
definitely.
ahead.
So that was really good. And for anyone listening, I mean, I was worried about it for a while, and just to hear that firsthand myself, like that was what I needed to hear to be like, oh, the green light. Like, I trust in like my Bell helmet and everything that I run. And whilst I'm doing this sort of more freestyle, like free ride tricks and everything, like I run a mouth guard purely just from that standpoint of like the absorption that your teeth have apparently affects concussions a little more. So yeah, trying to do the best I can, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's what we sign up for and it's part of our career. But if you can do the work like I'm doing now and just have that little bit of a reset, like I'm already seeing, yeah, just benefits with obviously my vision, my eyesight, and just my ability to like focus. Like I really did start feeling like quite ADHD and scattered, and noticed like a little bit of my memory and everything like wasn't as good. And now it's, yeah, I'm like coming back into myself. I'm like, oh, we're 3.5 weeks in. I'm going to Melbourne this weekend doing a retest, and yeah, it's been the best thing I've done.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this career in BMX, and you say you're doing this presenting and the commentating. Was I correct? Have you done the commentary for the previous Olympics
No,
as
so it'll
well?
be my
Or is
first.
this going
Yeah,
to be
so
the
I only took
first
on
one?
2 jobs. I've only done
Oh,
Nitro World Games and then Red Bull Roof Ride. Nitro World Games is my first.
and that was all presenting, right? I saw those clips and I thought you did an incredible job, and you're fun and well spoken, and you're audible. I think people have to understand what the question is, and you can relate, even though the sports are different. I think you can relate on the emotions and what they're feeling. So I thought the questions were really good as well. So is that, yeah, because I was going to say, like, are you at peace with moving away from BMX? But I think you're only going to really understand and feel that commentating an Olympics where you're not competing. So maybe that's something we'll talk about after the Olympics. But as far as the BMX career and where you're at now with mountain
Oh,
biking, are you at
definitely.
peace with that?
Yeah. Like I can say when I stepped away from BMX, it would have been 3.5 years ago when I didn't qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. It was one door closed and the next one opened. I got a call from Audi Nines 2 days later, and they're like, "Hey, we're having women this year. Do you want to come?" And it was COVID and everything, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there." And just dove into like the women's world first front flip and like hit the airbag and like started learning that, and was like, "All right, we're going to Germany. Like we're gonna hit this Audi Nines. Like let's go to a world first." And um, I think after all of that, like it was the best thing for my career, because I'd always like mountain biking was my love. I always said it was the thing that's given me longevity in my career. Like it's that yin and yang. Like BMX was high pressure, high performance, Olympics, like eat this, wear this, do this, structure, drug testing, like everything, you name it. And then mountain biking was like you run your own show, like cool, show up at Crankworks, do whatever race you want, go to four cross worlds, downhill worlds. Like I sort of dabbled in everything, had fun with it. So it was always that real positive like outlet. And when I finally hung up my bike with BMX, I just said, I put it in the bag and I was like, I'll bring it out when my kids go to the BMX track, hopefully one year. And I still have it. Like it's in my garage, and hopefully my kids want to do BMX, but if they don't want to do BMX, like I don't really mind. Yeah, and now I'm just like really enjoying mountain biking, and also feel at peace too with now that I've found this passion with speaking. I didn't realize that it would be something that I'd be really passionate about, but to be overlapping that still within my professional career now gives me that little peace of mind that a lot of athletes, they always say, you get to the end of your career and you're like, oh, what do I do now? I'm kind of stoked that I'm doing things that I'm passionate outside of the sport as well as still doing the sport.
Yeah, so do you think it's almost like having a side hustle that starts to take off, and then you can either go into it or not? But it seems to have taken the pressure off yourself on your career, knowing like, well, I've got a passion, clearly a skill set. People are hiring me already. Because I got asked about commentating and these presenting things before I hung it up as well. So I would say that I had a softer landing after retiring. And I think that is one of the hardest things. And it is spoken about, right? People go into heavy depression, they abuse substances, they do. And it's because of that identity thing is totally gone if you're not good at reflecting and working on that. But I still think it takes years. I couldn't be happier on the side of a
Yeah.
downhill track at the moment. I mean, it's almost bliss. I went to the top of Leger World Cup, and Brendan wanted me to help him warm up. So I was the trainer, the mechanic, and he shouldn't have asked me to be the mechanic. But
Yeah.
anyway, nothing fell off the bike. No, I'm joking. They had experts at the bottom. But he rode past me and he said, are you happy you're not going to the start line? And I can't lie to him. I said I couldn't be more happier than I ever expected I would be. But it's taken, say, 7 years. But this identity thing and career, like you had this horrific accident, right? Which was not related to actually riding a bike and doing what you do. So, and listening to it was super unlucky from what I can gather. Like you didn't seem like you were causing too much trouble or the person driving was. But you mentioned the loss of identity. Have you almost been
I
forced to
think
deal with it
so.
already?
Yeah. I think fortunately I already had that 2 years being out of sport, and I had that completely stripped away with me. Like I didn't know would I return to riding a bike. I was in a off-road vehicle accident that had rolled with my friend like a Can-Am down a fire road at New Year's. We weren't even going that fast. We're going back down to like the campsite, and it's just a unfortunate mistake. And we weren't wearing helmets. We weren't wearing seatbelts. So we both fell out, but the vehicle crushed me. So as I went under it, I caught the roll cage, rolled under it. The whole way to the Can-Am basically like snapped my chest, my sternum bones punctured my heart wall. My heart wall bled out into my lungs. Double punctured and collapsed both my lungs. So they call it a pneumothorax. So then I had like lung drains in, went to hospital, broke my nose. Yeah, so lucky I'm even alive, to be honest. Like if it was a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it would have been dead or paralyzed. So the fact that like survived that and then went through 3 sternum surgeries, like signed dotted lines with like 50% mortality rate if something went wrong with the surgery or I had an infection around my sternum bone because it's so close to your vital organs. I mean, yeah, you're completely numb. You're going through like, what is life? What's my purpose? Like, what's my why? Why am I here? How can I give back? How can I lead from the bench? And that was sort of, yeah, it was the best 2 years of my life when I look back now, because I started kids' books. I really dove into my mentoring. I went to events and just, worked on signature merch. I then started designing gloves and bikes and product and everything now, which is like the royalties and collaborations that I've got on the side. I did that when I wasn't on the bike because I was like, how can I sort of navigate all of this? And then once it was that blessing when I did finally heal after 2 years and step back into my sport, like everything was a bonus. Everything was a win. Super grateful for everything from that point on. Never took anything for granted. Um, and I think now it's like, yeah, we're stepping into any future career. Like I could finish writing tomorrow and I'd be completely okay with it. Like I think that sort of showed with Crankworks this year. I wrapped up the title with 2 events to go and I was drinking beer with Maxis at the tent being like, all right, this is sick. Like awesome watching you girls send it. This is great. Like, I'm okay with this.
No, I mean that's a unreally positive mindset to something that must have been pretty emotionally, horrific at the time. Like hindsight's obviously the easier way to deal with it, but you seem to always look for a silver lining. But were there? I mean, what was the self talk like through some of these surgeries and that process of maybe not coming out the other side or maybe not being able to ride again? I mean, those thoughts must have
Yeah,
crept
I
in, right?
got really good at understanding that there's only 2 things we can control, and that's your attitude and your effort. They're the only controllable. So it's like every day, how can I control my effort to that day or my attitude? Really just being a lot more grateful for like small things. So like stripping it back to the absolute now and like thinking in the now. A lot of the, whether it's like depression or anxiety or anything, it's those thoughts in the future, it's those thoughts in the past, and it's only life's hardest moments really bring you back to like actually working in the now. And that was sort of what I had to do. And then just remind myself that this too shall pass. Like every amazing high that I'd had in my career, a world title or an Olympic Games or David Beckham staring back at me on the Olympic start gate, like that moment passed, and then every injury that I'd had, that moment passed. Like everything's going to pass. So it's like, how can you just manage your effort and your attitude and be grateful like right there and then? That's sort of what I did every day for 2 years to get through. And then obviously that did pass. And like here we are today, back in mountain biking, back healthy, back on the bike, and not afraid. As soon as one of the surgeons said to me, like, your chest is bolted, you got wires, plates, cables, like, you're good. You can't do this same injury on the bike. Like, you're basically cleared to go. I was like, all right, coach, put me in. Let's go.
That's incredible. Yeah, I know that saying as well. This too shall pass. And there's this story, like an old sort of wives' tale of a father and his son, and the son has a horse, and someone comes and steals the horse, and then they go, "Oh, that's so unlucky." And he says, "Well, we shall see." And the fable carries on, and then the horse comes back. "Oh, you're so lucky, and your son's so lucky." "Well, we shall see." And the next day, the horse falls on the son, breaks his leg. "Well, we shall see." And then the next few weeks, people get called off to war, but the son can't go, and it carries on like that. And the father just kept saying, "We shall see." It's almost like this too shall pass. But you had to sort of keep reminding yourself, it's not just this natural thing that Caroline Buchanan has, this positive mindset. It's like you have to wake up and decide or remind yourself
Oh,
with
definitely.
gratitude.
It's a choice. And yeah, I think I'm just like quite open to, as I said, education and podcasts, and like just being a sponge and like helping, and my family and friends and who I surround myself with. Like, the mountain bike industry is amazing like that. Some of my greatest friends like work for Trek and work for all these brands. And I think that's just like the best thing about our community. And like, we're all so like-minded, and I love traveling the world and being with everyone, because we are like, you resonate with those people, like you vibe with them, they're your tribe. And yeah, I'm so glad that I found my footing and like what I do in the mountain bike world, because it's in the healthiest spot for women. And like you just mentioned, you love being on the sideline. Like, a really big topic this week is Rampage with the women. They're going to be in it. They're definitely ready now, and there's that pathway. But I'm the first to be like, oh, I'm so glad. I never want to sign up for Rampage. Like, that's outside. No, it's like completely
You don't?
outside of my
Okay.
downhill
No.
free ride kind of. Like, I might be able to manage the tricks, but not the terrain. So yeah, that would be one which, I mean, I'd love to be there interviewing the girls at the end. Would be more of a dream. Like, as you said, I'd love to interview them. Whoever's won, sidelines, give them high fives. It's exciting of what they're ready for. The girls are ready now, but can see it happening probably next year.
No, seeing them at Darkfest the last 2 years now, I was at the point where, and I don't want this to come out incorrect, and you can help me with that. I wasn't sure they would carry the speed, or like the jumps would work. I wasn't worried that the courage and skill set wasn't there. I was like, is it going to work with the speed? Because like you have to go at this thing at like some of them at 70K an hour, whatever it is. And that clearly wasn't an issue. And then the rest, I wasn't surprised. I mean, it was incredible to witness that progression. And you're obviously part of that. But with this Rampage thing, I obviously seen the pose, and it's going all over the internet. But what's the full story? Were there talks that they wanted to be in this one year already? Like, or because I'm also at the point, like, if they didn't plan to have the women in, they can't just put them in at last minute. Like, there's a lot of red tape. Or, where are we at with this discussion? Or has it been going on for so long that it's annoying that they can't
I
just
don't know
put
the
them in?
full ins and outs, but from what I have basically heard is that formation was always going to be this progression event. To ideally, what all the girls were hoping was to lead into Rampage. This year, with formation and budget cuts and everything, not having that event, but then on top of it, not having that entry space into Rampage, when there is Swatch Nines, there is Dark Fest, there is Freeride Fiesta. There's all these things going on for women's freeride and ways to make money, do these opportunities. I think that sort of really inspired the girls to like have this voice. And there has been like, I've been amongst a group chat on Instagram this whole last 2 weeks with everyone chatting about it. And it is going to happen. And I think it's been good accountability, like that everyone has spoken up. And Pink Bike did a really good post, and Red Bull has sort of mentioned like it's in the future and it's in the forecast. The girls were obviously like, we're all nervous. We've seen it happen in so many other sports like X Games, where freestyle BMX was a demo for the women for so many years, and it was going to continue to be a demo, and they boycotted it, and now it's not in the event at all. So could this have been a turning point? The same thing, that it's like there would be no future. I think it's been really positive that, there is talk for the future, and the girls that want to do it are ready, and they know the risks and what they're signing up to, and they've had enough time. And I think with all these other avenues that have opened up, the girls have had that experience, and they are completely ready.
Yeah, I mean, it was so awesome to see at Darkfest. Like, it was so motivational as well. But what is it like being in this industry as a woman and formerly, a young girl from Australia and BMX, and then coming into mountain biking? Like, the barrier to entry is quite difficult. And then, I mean, we have to call a spade a spade. Then being a woman in this sort of male-dominated industry for a long time must be a
You know, it
challenge in
was,
itself.
but like that whole narrative is just dropped now. Like, yeah, there's a little hurdle here or there, like an entry to Rampage, but you look at the broader picture of it now, and this is like the best, healthiest position that like it's ever been for the industry. I know firsthand that like myself and so many other women are making just as much, if not more, men in our same categories. So the endorsement deals are there if you're smart. Oh yeah, for sure.
What, money-wise?
Yeah.
That's
And
great. That's awesome.
I'm, the first one, I mentioned it to Paul Bass on a podcast the other week. Like, my goal this year was win a second Queen of Crankworks title, and I hustle my ass off, and I've always wanted my dream car. So I'm buying a G-Wagon in the next month. And it's like, I love that finally the narrative is like turned around. And for women, it's like, yeah, you can make a really prosperous career doing, you don't have to be just a downhill rider. You don't have to just be BMX racing. Like, if you want to be a content girl, you can be a content girl. If you want to be a all mountain free ride big bike girl, you can be that. If you want to be Patricia slopestyle only FMB, like, that's an avenue for you. Like, it's rad to be like, you can be whatever you want to be now, and there's career paths. And it's unreal. Like, I'm glad, because it was challenging for me, and then now I can be like, these women coming through like are in a really healthy time in the industry.
Yeah, but I mean, you've almost paved the way as one of them at the front of it. What's that like? Is there weight on your shoulders? I spoke to Tane, and someone from South Africa asked me to get something from her at Worlds. And then I'm like, this, a little young girl from South Africa. I mean, could you imagine how many other girls around the world in a place where there's more popular, Tane is even more popular. And I said, this must be quite overwhelming at stages. Sort of being the spokesperson for downhill women and your social media presence and stuff. And she said, yeah, it really can be, but she's learning to sort of be grateful for it and embrace it as giving back to the sport.
Like, it goes in waves. As I said, it's kind of really good accountability, just to, when days that you don't want to step up, or days that you don't want to go out there, or you have that typical like girly cry meltdown, everything gets like completely overwhelming. You step back up to the plate. I love that. Like, I'm glad, and I feel like when I went through all my injuries and everything, I had a really good mentor that works with all of the Red Bull athletes. His name's Nam, and he just said, "Hey, like, let's just dive into your why a little bit. Like, why do you think you're in this position? Like, why do you think you're here?" And we just spoke about, like, I think I was part of this generation and part of the athletes that maybe were ready and destined to like bridge the gap between male and female dominated sports and do that hardship, and then like leave the ladder down. And that's the next chapter of the future career, with these webinars and master classes and everything to give back. So I think, if it might be like, that might be a really big spiritual look on everything, but it definitely helped me. And, I'm glad that it takes a bit of the weight off, as well as just the appreciation for it all. Yeah.
I don't mind. You can get spiritual on me. I know I'm fascinated because you've been on a silent retreat. That might be my worst nightmare. even though I'm sure it'll be very, very beneficial. And there was Buddhist monks
Yeah,
there
I did it
and
in
other things,
California
right?
after one of my injuries, and like I didn't have much going on at the time, and it was like a 90% noble silence. So yeah, you were doing all like cleaning and mindfulness meditation. I was like sweeping their driveways for 3 hours. Like, um, it was so hard, and I was like, at any point I can leave, but I didn't. You know, I stuck it out for the week, and you had the Dharma talks and the education with all these monks, and come, I reckon, about like day three, I thought I was going to lose my mind. Started journaling and was like trying to slow down from the chaotic like world that you normally live in. And then, you know, you hit like day four, day five, and you're like, all right, it's 5 a.m. The gongs are going off. Like, let's get up. We've got to go up to the meditation. We've got to sit for 45 minutes. And yeah, you know, you don't really interact with anyone else that's like staying there. And it was wild. It was the best thing I ever did, to just tap into like, by the end of it, I was like, I am so high. Like, I am so happy and I'm so high and this is insane. And I've just sat with myself for a week.
What? Oh, and that you can get so much out
Oh,
of just
yeah.
sitting with
Yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, how
how
ironic. You're like,
ironic
I'm
is
just
that?
sitting here with my breath and I'm so happy and the sky is so nice. And what, like,
The
it's
sky's actually
literally
so
like,
blue.
yeah, but oh, I was terrified. I remember being like, I could leave at any point. Yeah, it was cool.
So the hard, I mean, you've obviously said like just being with yourself, but I just want to understand it more. Like, just you just going mad with thoughts in your head. Like, where were you? And you're like, I might just leave. Like after day three, what is that
Well, I
self
mean,
talk like? Be like, I
yeah,
can't
because I'm
believe I
like, am I
signed
even
up
the
for
only
this.
one? Where am I? I'm like in the middle of nowhere in this like Buddhist retreat with like monks, and they're going about their normal daily life, and here I am. And you know, you go on like a walking meditation, but everyone's singing, and I'm like not the kind of person. I'm like, I'm an action sport like mountain bike girl. Like, I'm used to being around like my tribe and my people. And you know, you get there and you just like singing as a group, and then you're walking and you're counting your steps, and they say like every 100 steps put a finger up, and then you get, you know, you see you counting, you get to the end of it. And um I don't know, it's just like absolute, absolutely just like pure life. It was hard, wild, but really good by the end of it. Yeah, recommend it.
And were you able to really bring the learnings of that into real life, like consistently over time? Because if you take like a social media detox or a phone detox, then within a day or two, you just like fall back to a lot of your old habits and things like
Small
that.
ones, yeah. I think like even when you would eat, you know, you'd had to like sit there and you'd have to wait until everyone in the room sat down. So it was like you're waiting for 60 odd people before you even started eating. And then you couldn't finish your meal until the monks or the sisters finished their meal. So you had to pace yourself, you had to eat slowly, and everything was vegetarian, and like it was just wild. But then yeah, I think in life, like when you do have those moments of like, oh, I'm realizing like I'm a little bit down, or I'm scattered, or I'm not present, or you know, whatever it is, you have these like tools that you can pull upon. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna like drink my coffee a little slower today, or you know, whatever it is. Like, yeah, I don't do this all the time, but I think if you can like dive into all these like things that are available and you can pull those skill sets, like it's definitely helped me be a performer on the bike and be an athlete. And yeah, I mean, deliver and be consistent over like the last 2 years with 2 Queen of Crankworks titles, and manage all of that. Like there were so many times I was terrified. I mean, riding Stevie Smith's downhill track this year, I was like, I'm out. I want to. I'm like, I don't even want to.
That did
I don't
look
even want to like
terrifying. I
attack
don't
this.
blame
This is
you.
my biggest weakness. But yeah,
And if you could take us into the mind of Caroline before these moments, or maybe before a start line. I know you are famously for using meditation, breathing techniques. What is it? What does that look like?
let me think of a moment this year. Probably I feel like definitely the ones like slalom, speed and style, pump track, like pretty high pressure events. I always breathe into like my chi, which is like my lower like stomach. Big believer in like just calming your mind, and always tell myself like everything you need is inside of you. Like when you turn up to a start gate or a race, like you don't need any external things on that day. So those little like reminders that everything you need is inside of you, like you got this, to control your breathing, because like you can't change anything until that red light goes. Trying to just be like really present. I mean, that's sort of what's helped me, because the training is done when the grandstands are empty. The training's done, like your preparation is done prior. Learning Superman Sea Grab Indian airs, like that was done 5 months in advance before I even brought that out at Innsbruck this year. So yeah, trying to just be like calm in the moment, listen to music, talk to friends, and then yeah, get the job done.
I was gonna say that's easier said than done, but that is 100% fact. Like all the work and preparation are done. Like it should technically be like a bonus, the race, but that's where we get the most nervous. That's where we look for outside sort of inputs. Oh, you're looking good. You're looking fast as well. If you, I think your mentorship program is going to be incredible, because I was thinking like, shucks, I wish I used half of these techniques back when I was racing. I'm sure I had my own ones, but sometimes you forget them, and it's those simple sort of things that
Yeah,
you've just
because
mentioned.
everything is like hundredths of a second. You might miss a little turn in slalom, or you might not keep your eyes up in a turn in pump track, or like it can just be the most basic body position, breathing, whatever it is. Like, and for me, I really break it down. Like I know on a slalom track, say like Cairns this year, you don't break until the finish line. It is 100% flat out. And all I would focus on is like staying forward and keep my eyes up, because when I was up at the start gate, I was like, stay forward, eyes up, stay forward, eyes up. And when you're attacking, it's like if you're staying forward, you got traction on the front wheel, you're going to corner better, eyes up. It's like you're already 10 steps ahead. So, turn, flat turn, braking, corners, whatever, those like two little cues. So yeah, I like to just like break everything down, keep it super simple, work on things like body technique and everything, and that delivers the. I was always trained in BMX, like don't think about the outcome, think about the performance, and the performance will get you the outcome. So little things like those two things in slalom get you a Craigwork slalom win.
Yeah, like the process, like what can I control, or what, yeah, those things you focus on, not exactly, not I have to win this heat or whatever. You're like, okay, it's so simple, right? Your brain can just then, there's so many things in between a win and the start gate, but you just simplify and say, well, I'm eyes forward, blah, 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 like these action
Yeah.
keys. And so this Queen of Crankworks title, what does that like mean to you compared to World Championship titles? You've had so many, been to Olympic Games, you've had some of the biggest accolades in the sport, and now this sort of, I don't know, rebreath of your
It
career here in
was
mountain bike.
amazing. Last year, I didn't expect to win it. I was doing the F&B series at the time, so I was doing a slope style event and had won big white and was going to like district ride and had never even ticked off a whole gold district ride course before. So I had all these other external goals. Kind of got to the second last round and did the math, and it was Geordie, Scott, myself, and Vire, and I was like, oh, I think I need to get on the downhill bike. Like I might actually be in contention for this. And I'd done my AC over rotating a front flip in district ride right before Cairns. So I'd got that rehab under and went into Cairns and was like, all right, I'm taking my downhill bike. Like, let's do this. Let's get uncomfortable. It's easy to stay comfortable, but I was like, oh, let's get uncomfortable. Let's do it. And then, yeah, when I wrapped that one up, like it was kind of a dream I never knew that like I would really achieve. I'd always aspired and like really been inspired by Jill Kinder. We always went head to head years ago in mountain biking, but I never truly like thought of myself as a mountain biker. Like I was this BMX background, pump track person, like never dropped the title of BMX background. And I think last year starting to win slalom.
Probably half my fault in the
probably.
commentary booth or whatever.
You're very part of it. But finally, yeah, like once I actually started winning some other events in mountain biking, and then this year you have that belief, the process, all right, I'm going to be traveling with 130 kilos worth of baggage, 4 bikes, 5 events. You know your tires from the year before, you know what's worked, you know the venues, you know how to navigate it. I had support from Trek that was like my mechanics. I have the partner hotels like the Ava Hotel in Whistler. I had the Millennium Hotel in Rotorua. So you have these hotels, you have the relationships, you have everything for the foundation of you to go, all right, like I can lean into this title, which is quite logistical and achieve it. And yeah, this year it was like amazing to do a second one and look back and be like, that was unreal. But it took this huge team, which I'm so grateful.
Was there more pressure this year with like the support and expectations? Like, would second have been a failure or more big of a failure? Like,
I
where was
really
your
wanted
mindset?
it, but yeah, like I don't think it would have been a failure at all. Didn't really feel like there was pressure. I think that's the Creekworks environment. Like, because I think that's the benefit when you are an individual athlete and you run your own team. You don't have like, you're not a World Cup downhill athlete. You know, you're not married to that team. You don't have their external 15 sponsors that are signed up for that year and the pressure for you to perform. For me, I have partners that it's like, whether I win, lose, or draw, whether I race, whether I don't race, whether I say to them, hey, I'm hanging up the bike tomorrow, they'll be like, that's fine. I think that's the value of like building a brand. And I just think like that really helps so much to then have that security to want to be a performer and then like enjoy the ride. Like if you have this foundation that you're not worried about your sponsors or the support or the pressure, or you got to win or whatever. If you have the relationships, you have the foundation, then you can just go out there and like enjoy it.
And this brand you speak about, your dad sort of instilled this like at an early age, probably before you understood a brand. I mean, we all understand brands now. It's like a
Yeah.
big buzzword, right? All over social media, and athletes are brands and companies are brands and brand identity. But your dad helped you with that a lot back in the
Yeah,
day,
he did.
right?
Like I think I was 13 and I'm like, Dad, I want to be a professional BMX bandit. He's like, all right, well, he's in IT and he's like, you better start hustling. Like this doesn't even exist. And yeah, he just helped chip away. I mean, I was definitely hungry, so they recognized that and just helped place me in the right environments. But yeah, he helped me like build out gifts for my signature unit range that I had when I was 14 years old. It was like I was one of Unit's first ever athletes, and we had like a hat and a t-shirt and something else, and we managed to like hack the forum. So there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't anything back then. We hacked like the community BMX forum and put like a web banner directing people to my merch, and then I was getting the royalties, and that was helping fund my travel at the time. And yeah, I mean, it's addictive. Like Dad was always just like, oh, try this, do this.
So
Well, he
illegally
had the
hacked,
login. He had the
right?
login,
Is
but
that what you mean?
maybe not
Oh, he had the
technically. We
login.
weren't meant to be like self marketing, advertising.
Promoting. So he
Yeah,
borrowed some space for a
yeah,
little bit. I love
yeah, it
that.
is.
That's the hustle. Hey, but I mean, it was for a good cause. It was to get you to races
Yeah, and
and to
so
these
many of the
world
athletes,
titles.
yeah, so many of the
I'm
athletes
merely
have like their
teasing.
same journey of their hustle of how they've made it. Or, I did all those first few years traveling around Europe, like staying with friends and sleeping on floors and everything. You've got to put in the hard yards, but it will pay off. And yeah, I think if you stay authentic, if you stay unique, and you're just consistent with your training, with your messaging, with your brand, like you'll get there.
Was there a point that there was doubt that you would sort of make it? You say like, sleeping on floors and all these things. Was there a point that you're like, this is, enough is enough? Maybe I should go another direction?
I mean, I was typically like, oh, you're distracted around 14 and you're at school and there's other avenues that you could be going down. But no, I think like whilst it was hard, like I was lucky I had like my family to lean back on and just like applied for different scholarships. Like Lane Beachley had a scholarship at the time. And when someone says like, I believe in you, those words can have so much value and weight. And she was a 7-time world surf champion, and she said, like, I believe in you. Here's a couple of $1,000 through my scholarship. But it was more important that she just said, you're going to beat 7 world titles. And I was like, bullshit, that's not going to happen. And then I passed a goal, and years later, I was like, hey, Lane, guess what? And she's like, I told you, knew you would. So now that's been like a big part of like why I started my scholarships with Ignite, and have put $130,000 back into women in sport, bringing girls to Crankworks. Like, when I say to them, like, I believe in you, like, I know how much weight that had on my journey and my career. So yeah, I love that just as much. Like, being at Cairns Crankworks this year and turning around and seeing Indy Lambert, who was powered by Ignite and Mazzocchi. She was there with her Marzo product on. She was racing 3 events. She got gold, silver, bronze. She was on the podium. Mum's crying. And I'm like, this is the best. Like, I can't believe I connected the dots to funnel that and make that happen and mentor and give her that belief. And she was like DMing me that week being like, how do I even do a chainless gate start for pump track? I've never done this. And she's like at the BMX track, and she's like sending me videos, and I'm like, get your body weight back more, do this, lean forward, eyes up, like whatever. It's cool. I love that.
That's incredible. It must be so fulfilling, like when you see them sort of standing on their own 2 feet after.
Oh, it is. Like, I think more people need to do it. More athletes should set up more mentoring things, webinars, like how-tos. That transparency, I just will give so much people more hope. There's so much like secretism, like within our industry. You don't know, like, what do I do? How do I navigate this? Like, what do I ask for from a brand? I don't want to undervalue myself. I don't want to undercut someone else. It's like, I think, that's really part of like what I want to do with this platform with Taylor, is just open that up and be like, here's a bit of a roadmap. Here's a bit of transparency.
Yeah, that's so true. When you're in it, the contracts as well, like he's not meant to speak about the salary, and like it's quite an odd sport compared to other sports where the salaries are open, and then hang on, that guy's getting that. My results or women are the same or better. My brand's got to be more powerful. Hey, I should be asking for more. There's at least some comparison bidding, but between the UCI and the teams, I don't think they're going to open that up. They probably don't want to open that. Why would you? Rather keep it a secret, and then you don't know how to back yourself. What do you think? It should be more open book?
Yeah, definitely. It'll just help, obviously, inspire and motivate this whole next generation coming through that doesn't understand it. But then it is also transparency, vice versa, not just about getting more, but understanding, like, is a brand going through a rebrand? Has some other company just bought them out? Like, I've gone through that myself, and, you have to be patient and understanding. I went through it, not getting paid royalties, not getting paid salary. I can't mention the brand, but these things happen. So I think if everyone's talking about it, and it's like, how do you navigate that to keep the relationship, it'll compound over time. That's probably like the biggest message that I've learned, is when you get to the end of your career and you look back and you say, like, this has been an epic 20-year contract with you guys. Like, don't jump ship because someone offers you like an extra $1,000, or don't jump ship when someone burns you because they've gone through a little bit of a tough time, or a rebrand, or some other brands bought them out and they owe you $2,000 for a product, like whatever it is. It's just stay authentic. There you go. It comes back to the 3: authentic, consistent, and unique.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, part of me, I think it should be more open, from the salaries to these discussions, and maybe, I think people might be like, it's crazy that you don't talk about. Well, certain athletes in their friend group or their people they trust, they will speak about salaries, because then you can compare and go, okay, his results are better, he's going to get more, but I should probably be in this range. And what are you doing, like, with these renewals? And I've had these discussions. I say, well, what does 10 years down the line look like? You could go now for 2-3 year deal. It'll probably be a lot more. But what does that look like in 10 years? Or where do you want to be? Like you say, it's like a compound effect. If you can have longevity with a brand, you might earn a little bit more, less here and there, but do you want some security? It depends what you want, right? Some people want to milk it, and that's also fine if you're willing to take the risk.
You got to look at it long term. You got to look like 5-10 years into the future. And be like, oh, I don't want to take this media budget now because that's not physically going to my pocket. But hey, this media budget for this film is going to be the perception or like credibility that I need to get a paid deal from another sponsor. So everything helps each other, and yeah, being patient, definitely long term, like it will pay off. Yeah.
But it's a good trick for anyone, like looking, 10 years down the line or 5, and looking back, like where do you want to be? Like you say, okay, so someone's not willing to pay you, but they're giving you some cool content. Well, you can put that into your basket and you tell your other sponsors, but this is the content I got for you for free because someone else is paying for it. So that is a big
Yeah,
game these
exactly.
days in
Like,
the industry.
for example, Boost Mobile on my hat, they're not my biggest paying deal, but they are the biggest broadcasted piece on my helmet. They spend the most amount of money to put my face all around Australia on billboards, in every supermarket. So when you go to the checkout, there's always like the Boost Mobile ads. It's got my face with Sally Fitzgibbons and like many other athletes. When you go and purchase a phone, it's like, boom, there we go. So the brand value of what they can provide tenfolds, like every Boost ad, I'm on a Trek bike, every
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Then
So
you
like
see,
looking at
yeah.
the big picture, definitely is a big part of the whole brand too. So I look forward to it. I mean, I hope that there's people listening that, especially young girls, it's not going to just be for the girls. It's going to be guys and girls, but we're going to open up this platform and have some webinars and Q&As and just kind of see like what people want to know and use that as a little bit of the discovery into the master classes of like what we could really break down between Taylor and myself. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's unreal. No, it definitely will. And what about, so this, back to your mentorship program, because we kind of glossed over it. Like, it's, when did it start? Yeah, maybe give some info on it. I've looked into it, but the listeners probably not
Just
all of them
checking my
have.
battery. I think we're good. We're on battery saving
How
mode,
is
but we
your?
got a bit.
Have you not got a charge? Do you not
This
own
is
a
not plugged
charger?
in right now. Should I put it in? How much longer
I
are we
think,
going for? I
yeah.
think we're an hour
Let's
and
break and
12.
get the.
Okay, we're at it.
Depends.
We're at it
Yeah,
at the moment.
no, not too much longer. We
Okay.
probably need the battery though.
I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on it.
Okay.
So
Us tech savvy
yeah.
athletes.
It started as Buchanan Next Gen. I crowdfunded initially just to like help some girls get to the World Championships. So sold off one of my Olympic bikes and a rainbow jersey and like coaching with me and just like pulled 15 grand initially. And then started that way to like help. And then it diversified into going from like a team into more of a scholarship because I wanted to put the ownership back onto the girls, that they would apply and I would help be able to bridge that gap. So it ignites their dreams. So I say to them, what's a gap in your career? So for example, I had a freestyle BMX girl called Sarah, and she said, I really need an airbag and I need like 16 one-on-one coaching sessions. I need to upskill myself because I want to go to the Olympics. So she's actually on the team, like the long list team at the moment. She's vying for Olympic spots for Australia at the moment for freestyle BMX. So that was her journey and what she needed like 6 years ago. So the $5,000 scholarship literally went towards buying her that airbag, getting her those coaching sessions, and then $1,000 goes towards content. So I help mentor her to go, this is how you talk to a photographer, videographer. This is how, you're doing this on your own, but I'm just there to like lend the helping hand. And then using my platform as well as Ignite, as well as whoever's powered that scholarship at the time. So bringing in Marzocchi, bringing in Trek, bringing in Fist, bringing in merch royalties, like that's sort of how I've been able to funnel in that $130,000 and deliver it back to the girls. Then they're obviously accountable because they're like, hey, I've got this goal. They then understand the value of delivering to a sponsor. They then see the content, the story online, and they tick off their dreams and they get like closer to that goal. So that's sort of how Ignite works. and pretty excited to like bring on another one towards the end of this year with Kier Serlin. She's like a young up and coming freestyle BMX girl, so she'll be the next Ignition.
Ignition, that's incredible. Yeah, I'm literally just stealing ideas. I'm like, I could make that work here. I need to get some South Africans to
Yeah.
Worlds or something like that. That's cool that's how it started, and then it's branched off into all these other sports. Like, how do you fund it then? Is it crowdfunding again? Do you have different partners for that? Like, what's your
So
goal
it
with
started as
funding?
crowdfunding, and then it just literally opened up to me speaking to my partners that I work with already. And every brand has normally a marketing budget. They'll then have like a brand budget, which is normally involving like sponsorship. A lot of brands now have like a philanthropy budget, which is like a give back. So they can tap into a whole different one, which
Yes.
doesn't normally go towards athletes, but it's like, oh, like a Marzocchi or a Trek or someone, these big corporate brands will be like, oh, we have corporate responsibility. Let's give back to these girls. So yeah, it's just seeing these opportunities and I guess helping these young girls, because I've been in that position of going, I don't know how to go to my first Crankworks. And I think like, for example, for Indy going to her first Crankworks this year, it was helping her mum and like, how do you pack a bike bag? How do you get there? She got there and like something had broken and, so it's like, I knew the local bike shop. So I'm like, hey, go to this bike shop in Cairns. They'll sort you out. And then the mechanics are there helping her. And then, her bike breaks. So she like runs into the Red Bull tent in Cairns and she actually like, I wasn't competing at that time on one of my bikes. So like my Magura brakes went onto her bike so she could compete real quick. And it's like, you make it work and she walks away with podiums, but like that would have never happened unless, you give that opportunity. So yeah, it's pretty inspiring. Everyone can do it. Everyone can give back. And yeah, like I don't see any money from it. I don't do any it for that reason, but you can just filter and funnel and yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. I'm honestly so impressed for you to find the time and want to give back as well, and then building that program. But I think what you're also teaching is because it's come up a lot. I chat to Brendan a bit, and the amount of DMs we get, but the questions are all wrong. And I think you're educating the question and saying, okay, what do you need to be better? Because you're not saying I'm going to help you write a resume to get another sponsor. You're saying, okay, so you need an airbag to get better. You need a flight to go to world championships to perform, because the social media these days, we spoke about it earlier, it's like, it's just this instant gratification. And you're saying, no, I'm going to help you be a better rider or be a better athlete. Yes. And then I can help you with massaging content and speaking to a photographer. But let's get you to be a better person. And what resources do you need? And that's amazing that they're applying through that structure, because it'd be, if you're just handing out free ODI grips or free this, and all they're doing is they're getting something, but they're not getting better
which
as an
is
athlete.
exactly like, and it can be even just from like that encouragement or placing someone in the right environment. And for example, like one of these up and coming freestyle BMX girls, her FIS scholarship, which was funded by royalties. So all I did was like designed a giraffe glove, said, this is a pretty sick design. FIS puts it out on socks, t-shirts, gloves, everything. And then the royalties, so like they're making their money. The royalties come into a bucket and then that goes into Ignite. And then I just like look at everything coming in from the girls and like what they need. And I saw this girl that's like, she's already super talented. She will be the future of like freestyle BMX. And she's like, hey, I just need to be put in the right position. I need to have fun with this. Like I want to progress. And I'm like, oh, I know the spot. Like, you go over to Daniel Durz's compound, like his action sport facility. There's Angie Marino. There's Nikita Ducaros. You're going to be around all these like freestyle Olympians. Go have fun. And like, hey, like don't worry about like the whole film budget. You're super young. You're 13 years old. Like we'll just shoot iPhone clips and like that'll keep the sponsors happy and it'll probably go better on social media because iPhone clips go freaking awesome these days. So yeah, we'll make that happen and just like ignite what you need. And it's a win-win for everyone. The brands are happy, content's happy, the story's happy, yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Lovely. And we probably should start wrapping it up in case you run out of battery or don't want to get a charger. But we can't let you go until we speak about some of these worlds first, because I mean that is what you're doing these days. Is like you've switched sort of fully to free ride and obviously
Mhm.
racing at Crankworks, but transitioning from a racing background and then into these like slope style tricks. You could have just done the racing side of mountain biking, but you've decided to get really uncomfortable and learn tricks that are not natural to you because you didn't grow up as a 13-year-old
Yeah.
girl doing tricks.
It was, it's really addictive actually.
Yeah.
Like,
You're
you
like,
talk
yeah.
about not seeing that instant
Uh,
success or the hard work. Like, freestyle's cool because you don't have to train and do 140 kilo squats and power and sprints and everything and wait for that result to pay off. You can, as I said, you can learn a one-hander and instantly you're like, oh, I've learned something, and someone else is encouraging you and you're in that real hype environment. Like, it's such a healthy sport. Like, I have really thrived in it and enjoy it, and I'm glad now that, like, I look forward to next year because I couldn't do it this year chasing the Queen of Crankworks title. It was like I was so dedicated towards it, but Crankworks were opening up Joyride and they were opening up all these like just opportunities for the girls to ride these gold slopestyle courses. Um, that's like a win every time. You're ticking off a new feature, you're ticking off a new jump. Like, it's so addictive and so fun in the best environment. And that's what I really like. Like, it's definitely challenging, and I've got friends that have airbags and facilities, and every time you're around, it's that natural peer pressure. So that's sort of how how that rolls. Yeah.
yeah, it can also roll the wrong way onto the ground. But airbags and, like you say, the barrier to entry is a little different than back in the day for learning these tricks and progressions. So, yeah, where did you come up with some of these world's first? You've done the world's first front flip for a female, as well as this Superman Indian Air. If
Yeah,
got that
Superman
correct,
seat
right?
grab Indian Air.
That's another one. See, yeah,
Yeah, like
forgot the
I don't
seat
know,
grab, of
the
course.
front flip thing, as I said, it was timing. I think it was that perfect combination of like the first Audi 9s. I really wanted to achieve it. I had my friend Mike Ross, who's one of my training partners in Canberra, and he was like, "Yeah, this is how you do it." And I remember just that little bit of confidence. He said, "You'll actually be able to be less blind on a front flip than you will a back flip. You'll be able to see the sky. You'll be able to see the landing. If you under rotate, you land your ass. It hurts way less than under rotating a back flip." So, just these little bit of like insights. I'm like, oh, this is actually like safer and better. And like, here we go. Let's give it a crack. And yeah, then like landed that. And it really, I was at a time in my career that I was transitioning from BMX racing and like missing Olympic Games to like really trying to heavily get back into mountain biking. So yeah, I think at the time, like maybe I had a little bit of a point to prove. I was like, any, whether it's internal, external motivation, I think that was a little bit of external motivation at the time to be like, all right, this window's opening, but I'm like, I'm not ready to quit. So let's go.
That's awesome, and those events are pretty fun. I must say, like the jam format, and you're not pressured to do anything. It's like the hype sort of becomes sort of a leader to these tricks. Well, certainly
Oh,
I've
so much
noticed,
fun. And Green Hill Bike Park, where it was this year with the Swatch Nines, like the awesome part is that venue has been left now for the bike park. So, anyone can go there and ride that free ride line. They've taken the skate park element away and the big air, but the trick jump, and they're going to extend it for next year to extend the free ride line and have that additional legacy. So instead of most of these big Red Bull events like District Ride, Roof Ride, they get packed up. You don't get to ride them. Huge budgets go into it. It's pretty cool that Swatch is like, that gets left as a legacy and like people can use that bike park. So yeah, I love it. I love already thinking about going back next year. Like, it's such a cool environment. I mean, it's DMB playing 24/7, and it's like it's a lot, but the parties and everything is it's super fun. Love it.
yeah. And you're not thinking of Dark Fest. Like, is that not the genre you are
Um,
looking to go
I don't really
into?
know. I'm gonna like evolve next year. Like this year at the Swatch Nines, that big air jump that I did, the Superseed Indy on my downhill bike. I'd never even jumped a bike. I'd never jumped a jump that big on my downhill bike. So when they pulled out the airbag and I just like got comfy on it and actually realized how much more stable the downhill bike was, I'm like, this is sick. Like, why have I not been on this? I've been on a little slope bike for the last couple of years. It is really addictive. So I'm just coming off, I guess, the Crankworx like come down, and I wanted this like couple of months to sort of reset and be like, what's the goals for next year? Like, is it a three-peat? Is it another Queen of Crankworx? Is it more slope style? Is it jumping on and, you know, trying to be one of those girls that are helping what's needed in the sport right now? Like, I think there's this opportunity for FMB and slope and everything to obviously get into joyride and get into, you know, we've got the girls that are pushing for Rampage. To be a part of that, I think, is like just as much inspirational and a legacy and like a drive for me than it is to be like to go and win another Crankworx title. So I'll sit on it for the next little bit. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sort of leaning towards like having a bit more fun with everything next year and just trying to help what's needed in the mountain bike community a bit more is the goal.
And is that something you think's needed, like the ladies getting into slopestyle, Rampage, or where do you think there's a gap or a need that needs to be filled?
There's a gap in all of it, and kind of what I said earlier, like it's hard to be what you can't see, and if there's only one or two girls doing it, it's, you know, it's not necessarily a class. So the fact that now there's like really good depth starting to get involved in all these free ride events, there's not as much depth, I'd say, on like the slope FMB side. Like you've got girls like Patricia Durant, the absolute future of slope style, but to have a class, like you really do need the Almas, the Geordie Scotts, myself. Like you need to go. There's 8 girls showing up, riding joyride. You're doing tricks. You're getting down. You're ready to put on a show. I think like if we look at it, maybe like next year is like girls ticking off all these events and all these features, and then I could see like 2025 being joyride for women.
And you would like to be in that on
I
that
don't know.
start
I mean, I'll
list,
set it as a
say?
goal right now, but I mean, I'd be pretty happy also to be on the microphone at the same time. I'm flowing with it, and I'm like rolling with whatever comes. As I said, I wouldn't have been imagined that I'd be like motivated, inspired, challenged, and still 32 years old, really at the peak for my mountain bike career right now. So I don't know, who knows? Greg Minnaar and everyone, I think, has just inspired so many the mountain bikers to be like,
yeah,
I
you know,
message
he
him all the time, like,
certainly
you're the GOAT, you're my inspiration.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, he is like, yeah, I literally keep saying he needs to stop coming up on the podcast. Like it just becomes like we do listener questions and you could answer Greg as an answer to a lot of the question. Who's good at this and who's the best? And you're like, damn it. But credit where credit's due. And also you have got another one up on Jill. Just you can put that on your resume. You came on the podcast before her. Between her and Bryn, I think they're a little bit scared. That's why I'm just going to call them out. Because I think these stories inspire a lot of the next generation, as you know, and I think that's probably why you're also like, hey, I'll take the time. I could be doing how many other things for your career or chilling, but you took the time. You're professional. You had the notes, and I think all the stories from people that have been a success really inspire the next generation. You know, because you hear what they did to get there, or the hard work that it took. Even just hearing like that top athletes struggle, I think is inspirational to the next generation, because then they understand, because I feel nervous on the start gate. But Caroline also feels nervous, but she's got a coping mechanism, you know? She's just like, you know, you're like treading water underneath, but on top of the surface, it's just calm.
Sure. Shitting yourself on the inside, but composed on the outside.
There you have it. Well, I mean, other than that, maybe is there anything else this off season's going to bring? I mean, you're obviously not going to tell me exact tricks you might want to be landing first, but take us through a journey of what the off season for you may look like leading into, say, a competition /
So what are we? We're September now, so wanted to dedicate 2 months to all this like concussion rehab. So yeah, just diving into that, sort of resetting a bit of the past injuries to my brain and just getting that confidence. then obviously like every year you have to step up for speed and style. So going back to the airbags and just putting in that little bit of a time, yeah, you can't get through with like a tuck no hander anymore like you used to. It's the girls are doing flip combos, and like that was why like this year I had to step up and be like, right, I need to do like a tuck the toboggan, which is the same as a flip, and then I'm going to do a Superman seat grab Indian air, which is the same as a flip combo. Yeah, so you kind of have to like keep leveling up every year. So I'll go back to the drawing board with speed and style, continue this like off season base. So yeah, I'm in the gym like 3 days a week for strength and conditioning. That's like for multiple reasons. Like you got to be strong to hit the ground, and then you also got to be like fit for that whole season resilience of the 4 stops of the world tour, and then you've got potentially like 8 events. So yeah, it's a lot, but I love it and I thrive on it, and it's my job, and I'm just so glad that I get to do this still for a living. Yes, that's like a little bit of off season, enjoying it, being home. It's Australia, so it's summer. Getting some business stuff lined up and just prepping everything for next year.
Well, I mean, there you have it, and they can follow you on probably Instagram's probably the best place. Otherwise, your website gives you all the information on your mentorship program. Anywhere else that we can direct
best thing
them
right
to?
now is probably just like Instagram, so just Caroline Buchanan or at @cbuchanan68 on TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, everything. But yeah, obviously for the Ignite scholarships, if there's any brands that are listening, it's really open to any brand, and I target it directly to like what they need or how they want it to be placed throughout their channels. So yeah, that's Ignite.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time and for all you do for the sport on and off the bike. I think there really is, yeah, I mean, I'm actually just so impressed. I'm a loss for words with how much you get done, as well as being at the top of the sport, taking on these presenting jobs, but just giving back on the Ignite program. And like you say, just messaging someone and giving them tips, that can go a really, really long way. So guys, please go check out her social media. It's, yeah, lots of good D&B tracks, which I enjoy on those mashups.
Thanks for having
So
me.
keep putting those out. Yeah, I need some lessons as well on the social media stuff. I guess I just got to keep
I just
using
think the
some of
2
the
best
songs that
tools
you
at the
use.
moment are Mojo and CapCut. That's what I've been using flat out for just mashing up content.
I mean, I don't even know
So
what
there's
that
one called
means. Is it an
Mojo,
app?
and it's an app, and it delivers you like all these templates. And then CapCut is really good for TikTok and Instagram. So you can literally go on there and it'll give you like the whole framework. So my like last post I did for Nobby, which is like a underwear company, it was a whole mashup for like an avocado underwear thing. And it was like you just drag in the photos, the videos, the clips, and then it just mashes it to a song and you upload it straight away. So it makes it all interactive.
Oh,
It
it makes it
does it all
for
for
you.
you. Yeah.
Okay.
And the algorithms love it.
Okay. There
Yeah.
we. That's good. I don't want to show my age. I need all these like hot tickets on the Instagram
CapCut.
and the socials. I got to keep up. But yeah, thanks for making the time and being who you are. Keep it up. I'm definitely going to follow along even more now. And you can go to Instagram. For the listeners, you know what to do. We're on YouTube as well. So I'll put this podcast will be out on YouTube as well as some awesome clips. So go to YouTube, Moving the Needle podcast. And I think the biggest thing you can do is give Caroline a follow if you don't, as well as share maybe this podcast with someone that can benefit from it, because there were so many motivational and inspirational nuggets there.
Thanks so much for having me.